So I have to have a plan. So I will use things like Todoist for my electronic to-do list. I will have things mapped out like what I'm doing in the office, what emails I've got to do, what messages I've got to send, what calls I need to make, but I'll plan that out. It's not all about money, but the wealth they've got, and it might be financial wealth, it might be mental wealth, whatever it is, whatever it means to that person, yeah, whatever is their why, you only see the good stuff. It's about being yourself. And it is about being yourself, because when you do something new, whether it's a new job, new business, whatever, you try and be everything to everyone, and you need to stop. And
Welcome back to another episode of the Inside the Orange podcast. And yes, we're joined today with another amazing guest, Chris Webb, who you may recognize from our earlier seasons on the podcast. Now, if you did miss the episode with Carl Fix or any of the other episodes so far, then you can find it on the Inside the Orange playlist on YouTube or where you enjoy your podcasts, so you can watch that or listen to that episode. We will be getting into the conversation with Chris shortly. However, though, as ever, here is how you can get in touch with the podcast, follow, subscribe and share, and help build the Inside the Orange community. At the Inside the Orange podcast, we're about creating positive change through organisation, reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude and engagement. And you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram at Inside the Orange, on X at Orange Watts, and the Inside the Orange podcast on Facebook. We want you to reach out and help build the community. So now into today's interview, and it was with another former guest of the podcast, Chris Webb, who gives us such a great lowdown on organisation, his business, and supporting that positive change through our conversation. So my guest today has been with us on the podcast before, and we have had an enlightening conversation, which is why I said, please come back and let's have another one. On the show today, we have got Chris Webb, who is a sustainability energy expert. He's putting organisations first, unlocking understanding to deliver energy, cost reduction, carbon accounting, and long-term educational support. Chris, I'm so delighted to welcome you back to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Well, let's start from the very beginning. Back in 2022, we had our last conversation. You're up to something very differently now, because we talked leadership last time. So yeah, what's going on in the world right now for you?
Well, first and foremost, hi Richard. It's great to be back. I really enjoyed it last time. The chat we had was brilliant. I think we were talking about loads of things, weren't we? We started off talking about leadership and then Man United from memory, and that was around the time of Ronaldo, I think, when it was going okay, and then the wheels fell off. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that was great. That was absolutely fantastic. So thanks for inviting me back on again. Yeah, so I've changed quite a bit from what I was doing last time. So still run my own company, but I'm now an energy consultant. So trained certified energy manager. And there's a big reason why I've done that and why I've kind of gone down that direction. So back in the day when I was in retail, especially when I was running regions, the utility costs and the costs of doing business used to make my eyes water. Utility costs, staffing costs are the two biggest costs you can have on your P&L, your profit and loss account. And I just thought there's got to be a way of getting these down and improving these. And obviously, when you're in a big corporate, You don't stand much success of doing that, not unless you're in charge. So I thought, with my experience and my understanding, there's there's got to be a way of helping businesses reduce those costs. And I just thought, I've got the experience, I've done it. I understand the markets as well. I've traded markets since I was in my 20s, so I understand brokering. So I thought, let's put it all together and offer a real unique service package. So in the energy industry, you probably know it's kind of got a bit of a reputation about people wanting to just give you a really good deal, take your money, and then off they go. And as you know from our background, service is key, and looking after people is key. And what I wanted to do was not only sort out people's energy, but then also be there for the long term for them. So I'm talking 5, 10, 15 years, where I could add long term value and help them save money. And simply what I want to do is just try and help organizations, so non-profits, profit, business organizations, save money and survive, and be there for the future. Because sadly, a lot of smaller organizations, if they don't, will not be here in the next coming years, because the market will just add more and more costs to their profit and loss account, which is scary. So yeah, that was the reason why I decided to do it. And I've got an absolute love of doing it as well. I love doing what I do. I've got some really amazing clients, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. Definitely.
I think that's brilliant. And that word, and again, the key word in your bio that I've used today, that word sustainability, and it's really refreshing you're saying those words. It's not just a quick sell, get out. It's, what
No.
does it look like for 10, 15 years? And it's really important for you. And we're going to come on to someone we really connect with later on with Simon Sinek about finding your why. But is this the closest you felt to what you've done in a long time? It's a positive, it's a
Yeah.
change. And again, we're all about positive change, but is it the closest you felt to what matters to you?
Yeah, it is. It feels good. The thing is, when you're doing something, for the last few years, don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed what I've done.
Hmm.
But there's been a part of me missing, and I think this is the final bit, because, and I think the best way to describe it is, I understand what I'm doing, I understand the business element, and I genuinely want to support people, and I can, you know, so I can identify ways that they can save money. I can help them, whether it be a plan towards helping them towards net zero, whether it be saving money on their costs, on their long-term costs. I think it's a start. The beautiful thing is, I think this is just a start. So I'm starting with energy, but this could get so much bigger. This could be costs in general, business costs, because you start getting into a whole different playing field then when you start talking about general costs, and you get into wastage. And well, I cover waste, I cover water in terms of my carbon accounting, but it just opens up into even bigger opportunities. And like I said, my biggest aim is, I want to be able to, my vision is, I want to be able to give the leaders I work with, so the stakeholders I work with, the ability to sleep at night. Because I know for a fact that when you've got costs in your organization that, I'm not going to say out of control, but they're higher than you would like, and you're probably thinking, what the hell am I going to do about this? Is it a profits warning? Am I going to lose my business if I'm a small business? I want to be able to take a bit of that stress and strain away and say, look, I've got a solution. I've got an energy solution for you, or I've got a solution with your water utilities. I've got a waste solution for you. I've got this solution. These are the recommendations. These are the options. That would be fantastic, and it will just help not only businesses but also the local economy. Yeah, for me, it's just yeah. As you can probably tell, I'm really passionate about it, and I think that I've got myself, because I'm surrounding myself with a real good group and a good team of people that know various parts of the industry, such as solar, electric vehicle charging, and there's different technologies as well that people don't know about, or well, not a lot of people know about. Magnetech technology, for efficiencies. There's just loads, even electricians installing LED technologies and so on and so forth. So there's loads and loads of people I work with, and the results are, well, the opportunities are endless. But it's about doing the right thing, because you can, and I found this as well, you can invest heavily into your organization. You can spend millions on renovating your warehouse, your shop, your estate. But it doesn't mean to say it's the right thing to do. And what I mean by that is, I went to a organization that spent quite a few £1 million. Looks lovely, but actually the lighting they'd installed is probably far too high. So actually they've installed 35 watts and they could have got away with 18. Now that's not the fault of the people that have done that. They've done a really, really good job. But actually it just needs that person, that commercial, kind of person on your shoulder going, is that the right thing to do? Because you're going to save a hell of a lot of money if we can put these in instead. And then you just check it and make sure it's okay, and make sure the actual brightness, the lumens are correct, and so on and so forth. And it's, if it works, and it saves money.
Absolutely. And you know what you said there just a minute ago, I was going to ask a question about it, but you did kind of mention it. You said it keeps people up at night, and I know recently you've done videos showing a bit of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is this something that absolutely makes people, lose businesses if they don't get this right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do quite a lot of work with local business networking groups, and as part of one of those, we went to Westminster to speak to the MPs, the local MPs for Northamptonshire, because I'm in a bit of a different area to yourself, aren't I? I'm in Northamptonshire. And it was really interesting. So I'm really passionate about small businesses, and I know for a fact, I mean, I put a post out today on LinkedIn around the market, and I'm going to do it every single week because I think it's important. It's just information where the market's at. Because if you go into the market at the wrong time, you make the wrong decision, you're in a contract then, which is potentially going to cost you more money than you need to. That's where you need the advice. That's where you need the help. And I know for a fact, by speaking to a couple of smaller businesses, that stress of the energy contract is challenging, and it does keep people awake. It used to, for a different thing, keep me awake as well in my job, because are you actually going to make the profit targets that you've committed to? Because if you don't make the profit targets, then things happen. And I'll give you an example. So I used to run a very big region in co-op, and yeah, there's various stores because of costs that were just not viable to run. So there was a store in Northampton that the costs of actually opening that store were far more than it was worth by having it open. So the store closed. It was disposed of, as we could call it in the industry. And luckily, the staff were given jobs in other shops. But if that was a smaller organisation, probably they couldn't afford to do that. Those staff potentially would be out of work, and that really doesn't sit right with me. I understand the reason why, but when you look at the costs, that store was just hemorrhaging money, right? Not just utilities, energy, but some real big costs, shrinkage, leakage, wastage, all those retailing costs as well. But they all add up, and it just creates a massive headache, especially, because I know a lot of business owners will want to do the right thing for their people. And if you're then having to have difficult conversations, say, look, you haven't got a job, then that is majorly challenging, not only on yourself, but also the people that you're going to affect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when you think about it that way, it isn't just looking after the business owner. There's people in there. It's an
Yeah.
amazing thought process. It really is. And I really commend you for kind of looking at that line of work. With it though, is it because obviously you've done leadership, obviously been retail management? Is it a big change? And again, we're all about positive change with the podcast, or is it more of a pivot? How do you see the change of going into this new line of what you're doing?
Yeah, good question. To be honest, there's a lot of synergies.
Mm.
There's a lot of things that are saying uh, similar to what I did in my corporate in the corporate world, but it's a massive change. And the reason it's a massive change is when you run your own business, it's hard, it's tough, it's not an easy ride. Sometimes I think to myself, what am I doing? I don't think, and what I mean by that is I don't think that very often. More times I love it. But there are the odd times where I think, God, this is really, really tough, but I did this for a reason. So there's a reason why I want to do this, and there's a difference that I can make. So I carry on. But it's simple just to, and I'm dumbing it down here. It's not as simple as this, I know, but it's easier and it's a lot less stressful to go to work, pick up a paycheck, go home. When you're doing stuff like this, I've got a lot of business on at the moment. I was working 7 days last week. I was doing proposals. The other thing as well, because I like things to be right, is I'll read something, I'll reread it, I'll triple read it. I'll ask the wife to have a look at it. Do you know what I mean? Because I want it to be right. Everything that I do, it has to be right. And that's just me. It's my standard. You know what my standards are like. In retail, my standards were, well, you can tell the listeners what they were like, but that's just me. I've just brought my standards head into energy. So you imagine me, what I like my stores to look like as a store manager. Now switch that into energy. What are my customers going to get? What are my clients going to get? Because that's where my head's at. And that's how relentless I am about it. That'll make sense to you. It might not make sense to other people, but it'll make sense to you.
No, absolutely. And again, if there's one thing, I can't deny, obviously, we, my job was to make something look good to your standards. And I mean, as I say, there was conversations that we had to make sure that right. But again, I still think I learned a lot from yourself. And as I've said, why I wanted you on the podcast. I mean, you've said putting organisations first, but I want to change the other organisation that we want to talk about. You talk about structure, you talk about planning, you talk about getting things right. That's the positive change that Inside the Orange is looking at this year, is that organising structure. And for years, I think I came into conflict with you probably about your organisation. I couldn't see it. I said recently on a previous episode, actually, that's been out, that I was probably quite a chaos management person, which meant if there was a crisis, I was all right in a crisis. I was good to have. But I said, when you are a chaos management kind of person, all the rest of the world sees is chaos. Is that fair? And again, having that planned approach, does that remove that element of chaos? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Rich, because I think at the end of the day, and I hear what you're saying, but what I've learned is there's lots of different people that do live in chaos, but they are absolutely fantastic people, and they are generally. I just thought, I didn't know that. The beauty of me getting older and a bit wiser with the old grey beard is I understand more about people than I've ever done now. I know I used to be responsible for a hell of a lot of people years and years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, however many hundreds and thousands I was responsible for. But I didn't really understand them as much as what I do now. And when I look back, I actually think, and I was having this conversation actually today because I'm a trustee with a local charity, and they help adults, young adults, and older adults as well, learning difficulties.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think I've only really just understood people. I think I've got it in terms of understanding and getting that understanding of the different skills people have. Every single person in this world has got something to offer. Fact. And the problem is in this country, we've got too much bloody red tape around it, and we make it so difficult for someone to get a job. They have to be this way. They've got to do this. They've got to jump through these many hoops. They've got to do that, this and the other. Otherwise, they don't get it. And you're just literally writing off straight away so many fantastic people that could probably do the job with their eyes closed and give you fantastic results. And that, for me, my lights have been turned on, and I can see that now. And I think I've digressed from your question, but going back to what you were saying, people living in chaos, generally got infectious personalities, infectious.
True.
But in terms of actually, they're the people you would want at the forefront of what you're trying to do, because people just warm to them so much. And I, I, if that explains it, I've kind of
No,
learned
yeah,
every single person has got a style, and it's about finding what works for you as well. You can pick up tips along the way to help you, but it's whatever works for you,
mm,
and whatever can help you be more efficient in what you're trying to do. So there's
absolutely.
not one size fits all, Richard. I think
No,
that's the answer.
no, absolutely. And again, I don't think for myself, I don't think it was a case of, oh, well, rip up everything you've done over the years. And you're exactly right. There is value in every single person. And that's the beauty, like you say, you've used the word synergy. If we do that with people, if we have that synergy of different people, actually, we're going to have a much better kind of anything, aren't we, really? That's
Yeah,
life, isn't it? If we were all the same. But
yeah, exactly.
I do really want to take my off to you, because again, organization was probably, when I think of the people in my career, but think of the bosses that I've had, I would say planning, structure, and organization is yourself. But it's helped you, hasn't it? It's helped you with what you're doing. And like you said, to the point now where you proofread and get your wife to proofread, etc. It's helped you.
Yeah,
But why does it kind of keep you regulated if you've got that planned approach for yourself? Is that a regulation
yeah,
for you?
yeah, yeah. It does, and I think in truth, there's nothing wrong with a bit of structure.
Mm,
So, when you look at it, there's a couple of things I particularly like. So I like the Pomodoro technique. I don't know whether you're aware of that, but it's like short blocks of work and then a bit of a break. Not like a 3 hour break, a little tiny break where you can go and do something else. Because even though you said I was good at organization and structure, I can procrastinate like hell. I can, honestly. I can literally be distracted just like that. And I have to stop myself.
mm,
So I have to have a plan. So I will use things like todoist for my electronic to-do list. I will have things mapped out, like what I'm doing in the office, what emails I've got to do, what messages I've got to send, what calls I need to make. But I'll plan that out. So, for example, I know that I've got 20 something calls to make tomorrow of people that I've already spoke to before,
mm,
just as a follow-up call or whatever it might be. So I know that because I planned it. Because what I learned from my retail days is that to be good and to gain traction, you've got to do the same sort of stuff every single day. It's almost like we said, like walking the terrazzo. You've got to do the same thing every single day. Do that walk, do that, cover the same place. And it can be boring. That's why people
mm.
give up on it. That's like, oh, stop this. But it is boring, but you've got to stick to it. It's like people saying having goals. You know, Goals are fantastic, but you've got to then actually do them. Because there is an element of you can plan to the nth degree and do sod all, but you've got to actually do it. So, if you've got a goal of wanting to be a millionaire, brilliant. Okay, but what are you going to do about it? So you're going to be a millionaire. When are you going to get there? What does that look like every single year? What does that look like, every quarter?
Mm,
What does that look like every month? What does that look like every week? What does that look like every day?
mm.
And then what does that look like every hour? So you just chunk it all down. And then I'm a great believer in metrics and KPIs from retailing, but you got to track something. So you try something and see if it works. If it doesn't work, try something else. The worst thing you can do is try something, it don't work, and give up. You know, because what you'll find with a lot of successful business people is they've tried thousands of things, and a lot of things have gone wrong for them. You only ever see now, when you look at successful people, their flashy cars, the money that they've got now, and it's not all about money, but the wealth they've got, and it might be financial wealth, it might be mental wealth, whatever it is, whatever it means to that person, yeah, whatever is their why, you only see the good stuff. You don't see all the pain and all the heartache they've been through in the past. You don't see the fact that they've probably moved bankrupt 3 times. You don't see the fact that they've probably had 4 marriages. You don't see the fact that their kids won't talk to them. You don't see all this kind of stuff that affects everybody. You just see the good stuff. And because you just see the good stuff, everyone thinks, oh, that's what, you do. That's what you get. Well, no, you have to work bloody hard and tirelessly to be able to achieve something. And I think, in my opinion, a lot of people do give up quite easily. And you've got to have a structure and you've got to keep to it. So
yeah, it's resilience. But what I'm listening to there is that the focus is on outcome. Okay, it might not be every month you need the kind of end result, but you're tracking towards that. So is it being outcome focused as well in those goals of actually where do I want to get to?
Yeah.
Where am I now?
I like to, and this is what I do in my audits as well, when I'm talking about where a business wants to be. I like to, what's the end goal, and then work backwards, because for me, it's almost like the analogy of an apple. You got an apple, you cut it up into segments. You wouldn't give your little toddler or whatever a whole apple. You cut it up into segments so it's bite-sized, and that's what it's about for me. It's might be different for other people, but how can you, if you're going to say, let's use the millionaire analogy again, how are you going to get to a millionaire if you say I'm going to be a millionaire? If you say I'm going to be a millionaire in 5 years' time, and you work backwards to the point of what you've got to earn, I haven't done the maths, I don't know what it is, but what you've got to do every single day, then you can put tasks to those individual daily actions. So obviously you've got to do quite a bit of work to earn whatever it is a day. I don't know, whatever it is a day. Might be, I don't know, might be $5,000 a day or something. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of money, but you have to do something pretty major. So what have you got to do that? You're going to have some kind of business or organization or something going. You've got to have something that's going to generate that for you. So what's it going to be? And all of a sudden you start putting tasks to things. You start putting you know this from retail, smart targets, putting things that actually you're going to do, then the likelihood is you'll do them.
Yep.
But if you've got 100 things that you want to do, you're probably going to mess up 90 of them. 10 of them might be golden nuggets. So, but the thing is, by the time someone's got to 50 and it hasn't worked, they give up and then they go home. So and that's the problem. And that's what you've got to really focus on. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm no expert and I'm not a millionaire, but I'm just going, through experiences that I could share on in my past, and also what I think will work in the future. And yeah, that's my belief.
That's a great point. I mean, as I say, looking at the smart targets, you say it's something that is in retail, it's around, but we set the target, we know when we want to achieve it, but those things like measurable, we don't look at that tracking of where will this be then. Just before we do go on there, I'm going to say, Chris, I've always loved your analogies. You've had analogies all the time. However, I would like to make a suggestion for me and my audience. Rather than apple segments, can we use the orange? Where is it?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Apologies.
We don't judge. It's fine. Apple segments are fine, but we know we're all about the inside.
I've got the orange straight in front of me. I should have used it. Apologies.
No worries. But no, it is a fantastic analogy. And again, it is breaking it down and setting it. So thank you. I did like an arrow through my heart, Chris, when I heard the word apple instead of orange.
Oh,
no worries. And we've invited him back, folks. How about that? We've invited him back, and he's still picked the wrong fruit. No worries.
Never mind. Maybe next time I'll get it right.
Absolutely.
Maybe next time I'll say banana or something.
That's not bad. With things like that, with your organization, say with the podcast this year, we're looking at reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude, and engagement. Do you use that level of organization with any of those? You used to be quite active with fitness, I know for that, and nutrition was really important to you as well. Do you use that level of organization for that? Is it still as important to you, or is it kind of looked at the back burner now?
Yeah, it is. I have to say I'm not as active as what I used to be. I used to be in the gym, all the time. And sadly, last few years, that's tailed off. I want to get back to that because I know from a from a mental health point of view, it really does put me on top of my game. Really, just felt so energized. Going to the gym. I remember listening to your podcast in the gym. So it's just a great place. You can educate yourself, and then you can also work out. So you're educating, you're working out, and you're also improving your mental health. So it's a great way. So I'm a great fan of it. So no, I need to get back on with that and work on that. I think the biggest thing is for me, where I've done quite a bit of work, is around the growth part. So, and what I mean by that is, I've always been a great believer in coaches, mentors, supports. I've changed it a little bit differently now. So what I think it's about surrounding yourself with as many people as you can in your network that have got so many different skills, experiences, backgrounds, different outlooks on life. And I think that enhances you more. That's my personal. Don't get me wrong, I'm not, coaches do a fantastic job. But I think for me, what I found really useful is having people that I know that I could pick the phone up to, and I know they're experienced in this, that, and the other. That for me is game changing. And I've got a list as long as God knows what of people that I just get so much value talking to, and it might be someone that is talking to you on a mental health and well-being level, or it could be someone who's run a business for 20, 30, 40 years. It's got so much experience. Just for me, that is, game changing.
And as I say, it links into engagement. It is about getting to other people who might have different views to you, but they can help you and that way. And again, that's what we meant. And the gratitude we mean is, being thankful for having those people in our life that help us make those changes. That's really good. You've mentioned it a couple of times that it was 15 years since we've worked. Well, we started working together. And
it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Eh?
It does feel a long time. But again, wow. It's just it's been something that's it's time is an amazing thing, and you've talked about it a lot today about making that change, about thinking about things differently. But what I've really enjoyed, especially in your work across LinkedIn and things I've seen recently, is that vulnerability, is that little bit now that's saying, do you know what? I'm learning myself still. I'm still learning. I'm in a much better place than I was. Doesn't mean there was anything wrong where we've come from, but it's fantastic that we kind of identify that change in ourselves. Yeah. And as I say, but I could not believe when I was researching going, that's 15 years. I've heard older generations talk about things that happened that long ago and felt, wow, how do you keep up with that? But it's immense.
No, you're right. Absolutely spot on.
What would you say would be, though, your advice for creating that change? So where you've come from and where you feel you are now, what's your advice for people doing that? And before I ask that question, the reason I ask that is because the 6 segments for me, I kind of pulled in, they didn't happen all together. It's not like overnight I was more organized, more engaged. They're more showing more gratitude, eating better. It's had to be like a slow process. But what's your advice for people who want to create that positive positive change and create that bit of happiness?
Do you know what? It's a bit of an old kind of thing, bit of an old cliche or whatever, but it's about being yourself. And it is about being yourself, because when you do something new, whether it's a new job, new business, whatever, you try and be everything to everyone, and you need to stop. And the biggest mistake is trying to think and change to what you think people want, because they don't want it. They just want you. And that's why, the vulnerability is there. That's why I've kind of, a few lights have come in my head and I've changed the way I do things, because it's about me and it's about, what I'm here for, why I set my business up, what I want to do and how I want to help people. And that's genuine. And at the end of the day, it's not about, and I've made these mistakes, so I can talk about it. I took a course on how to get so many LinkedIn leads, and it was just, when I look back, it was so salesy and spammy. It was unbelievable. And I just think, oh my God, I put that right across my LinkedIn and everything else. And when I look back, I thought, you know, bad choice. But then you do things for a reason. So, you learn from it, you move on. But that would be my biggest advice is just be yourself, you know. And if you're prepared to be genuine, care about what you do, offer people some value in terms of actually you're going to educate, help, support, people will come to you.
I think it's fantastic advice. And again, you've mentioned a lot in here about the why and Simon Sinek. And I know we had a fantastic about him. We're both massive, massive fans of it. And again, I think we're both finding or have potentially found that why. Is it still something that talks to you a lot? Is it still something that is important to you?
Yeah, it is actually. So I've got two whys. I've got my why and my business why. So my personal why is quite simple. I just want to be able to help people realize their success.
Hmm.
And that's it. Just as simple as that. And that'll be different for some people. So, your success is totally different to my success, but actually what is important to you? Basically, that's what it means. What's important to you? Because I've been around the block a bit, as you know, as we've been talking, and there's some value that I can add, and whatever I can do to help people, then that's fantastic. That's what I'm here to do, and that's important. And it kind of links in to my business why, which is the vision that I had for the business, which was, you know, making sure that people, senior leaders, stakeholders can sleep at night and not be worried about the costs, those costs that could derail them, wipe them out, take them out of business tomorrow. So those things, quite big things, quite chunky things, but they mean a lot to me. And yeah, that they're my whys, and I think they link in
I,
some respects.
I think
So
amazing. I think, and what's really come out today is your honesty about where that's come from and why and you can hear that's your why.
mm,
But it's interesting. I hope you don't mind me asking this at all, but it's it feels different to corporate Chris. It really does in terms of
yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying you didn't care about people and whether we slept at night, obviously, not about that. But it does sound like, your why don't contain any KPIs other than the
No,
people in front of you.
no. And look, I don't know whether that's because I'm a bit older, a bit wise. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just like you, I don't know. You learn an awful lot by I want to say making mistakes because you just got to keep going.
Mm,
You'll do loads of things wrong. You'll make loads of errors, but they're all massive learning curves. So, as long as you don't give up, then you're gonna get to where you want to get to. And I'm a massive believer of that.
mm,
And I'm a massive believer as well in business that you don't have you have to do the right thing and you will be successful yourself. That's I generally believe that. If if I do the right thing for the people I work with, my customers, my clients, my partners, I've got an absolute massive belief that I will do all right as well.
mm.
you know because it all works together. Doesn't you don't need to be like, oh, I'm talking about broker mentality here. Oh, offer the cheapest energy going, and then what I'm going to do when there's a problem, I'm going to not answer the phone. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of those sleazy techniques to get an extra buck. You know, it's about the long game and it's about doing the right thing. And I'm a great believer now, um, more than I've ever been, that if you do the right thing, then you can flourish yourself. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And I think you've alluded to an even more impressive point of the fact that if you're fearful of change, if you're not prepared to change, you're fearful of learning. I think that's a real key point that
Mm.
you're only going to learn if you're open to change, aren't you? You're only going
Yeah.
to learn anything for that. That's an amazing point, and you explained
Mm.
it so well. Um,
You got to be able to take feedback, and there's loads of feedback I've took over the years. There's loads of things that I've done wrong. The beauty of it is that it's, I can't remember that. I'm trying to think of the quote. I'm trying to think who it was, but you almost got to you've got to almost fail to succeed.
mm,
Um, and, and it doesn't go like that. I kind of paraphrase a little bit, but it's like that. You've almost got to have a go to
Mm.
mess it up, to understand that that's not the way, and then work out the way. And it's you've got to go through that process. But the thing is, like I said earlier, people give up very, very quickly. So, you know, halfway through that, because it's tough, it's challenging. You know, when you get lots of things going wrong, or people saying no, you shouldn't do this, or no, that's not right, or whatever it might be, but where you believe in it and it's your kind of deep inner, no, this is the right thing to do. You got to push against that. It's tough, because you're pushing against people going, no, I don't believe in this, but you believe in it.
Mm.
And if it feels right and it's deep inside you, then just keep going. Keep
Mm.
going. That's my advice.
That's brilliant. In terms of reading, do you do much kind of reading? Have you kind of any books you can kind of suggest that have helped you with some of this journey? Anything over the time?
I probably do less reading now than I used to, purely because of time. I like listening to podcasts, so I'm glad that Inside the Orange 2.0, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go, got it right. Is coming back, because then I can listen to that. But I listen to a lot of podcasts, but it's all around entrepreneur leadership. Um, I like. I always like to learn. I like to learn how to do processes better, how to engage with people better. I like the high performance podcast. I think that's really, really good. Um, I like um, I like quite a few sports ones as well, because it's good to keep it lighthearted.
Mm.
Um, but then, the traditional leadership thing. So what I'll do now is Blinkist is quite good. I don't know whether you heard of that, where you can
Great,
kind of
please.
get, yeah. So basically, what you could do, it's like an app you download, and you can get a book, and you can read it within about a whole book within about 15 minutes, or you can listen to it. It summarizes it. It's
Mm.
brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So if you went in and you typed, oh, I wanted to, I want to download simonsinek, then it would do. Or I wanted to download something else, it would download it, and it will give you the key things of that book, the key threads, and you could understand it. So that's probably the lazy way of doing it, but I quite like that. Um, but then there's another book I quite like. I'm trying to remember the name of the author now. So Atomic Habits.
Oh, James, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. James Clear. I forgot his name. But that's almost what I described earlier. So it's almost like little tiny bite-sized things over time compound and become something massive.
Hmm.
And for me, that's what it's all about. It's literally like, you know, you might do 5 actions today, but in 5 years' time, that could have made you, it's an endless possibility. But if you do those 5 every single day, oh my God, you know, and they're the right 5, it's just powerful. So it's for me, it's about that consistency and doing the same thing. And then if that thing doesn't work, changing it, and but doing the same thing with something different. So yeah,
Yeah. Huge, as I say, I've read Atomic Habits, and do you know what? It's probably the basis of why we picked this series and why we did it. There's a few influences that we found, but I remember talking to my friend about it, going, look, I've got this brand new, I'm going to do it this way. And it's all about making that, change. And again, it's about organization, reading, activity, nutrition. I feel that's all gratitude and engagement. I feel I've done a change for them over these last few years. Hasn't all
yeah,
happened at once, but even a 1% change. And he went, I'll stop you there. You've read Atomic Habits, haven't you? And I went, yes, I have.
yeah,
Way.
yeah.
But you're right, but it was about, but we can do these things, but it's just seeing it sometimes and seeing and what it is and the effects of building those things. So yeah, amazing books. But thank you for describing that app as well, because we've always said with the reading bit, we're kind of putting an asterisk on it because we have to appreciate, we want people to get knowledge from books and things.
Yeah.
Reading isn't straightforward for everyone. It's time,
No,
what's going on.
no,
So if there's
no.
ways that people can get that information to them, rather than being put off, oh, I can't read a 300-page book, but actually something that summarizes the key points. That's a great app. So yeah, I'll
But
make
the
a
other
note.
thing you can do as well, Rich, I don't know whether you know about this, but I like technology because I think you can use technology to help you. But if you put into AI, Chat GPT, summarize a book, it'll do it for you. You
Yeah.
know, that's an easy way. The thing is, it might seem a bit lazy, but it's an easy way of getting the understanding what it's about.
Mm,
You know, so when someone says, "Oh, there's this book out there," I just whack that in there and go, "Oh,
mm,
that's good." And if I want some more detail on, I can research it. I don't know. I've never been like a I haven't read a book, sit down
mm,
cover to cover for years. I don't know. And I think times are changing. I think it's all, media,
mm.
podcast, because you can do it as you're on the go in the car.
Yeah.
I just think we lead such busy lives that I don't know. Maybe there's people out there that, you know, do the reading, love the reading. I'm sure there is, but for me, it's just I want to get the key things out of that and
Yeah.
really understand it. I'll
It,
tell you what is a real, and I'll give you this tip as well, what is a really good thing to do, because it's one thing getting information, it's totally another just absorbing it. So I like to get up in the morning and just literally do nothing. So sit down, cup of coffee, dark room, no one about, no distractions, and a pen and paper. And then I will just think of everything that comes into my head
mm,
and just write it down. As you write it down, it'll be various different things. It might be like, I've got to do this for work. But there'll be other things. It'll be like, oh, something to do with this podcast I've listened to or other bits. It's such a great way of I call it detoxing your brain. And I think and I'm no expert in this, so you probably want to speak to an expert, but I think that kind of starts then bordering on mindfulness and stuff,
yeah.
you know, where you can start, like meditating all this. But I don't do that, but I get the power of just being quiet and focused on your own self. And that for me, that's where you can get some understanding of what's going on inside, you know.
I think it's brilliant. And as I say, I'm so grateful you shared it. And again, the reason Inside the Orange started all those years, 5 years ago, we are this year, we started, was because we want to put stuff out into the world that says, try this, try and do it this way. And like you've just said there,
Mm.
if you want to go through mindfulness and full mindfulness, you might need to go and speak to a
Yeah.
therapist, people of the right position. But could that one suggestion you've made someone go, I could do that. That's right up my street. And again, planning your day in a dark room, reflecting on the day you've just had in a dark room, it would
Mm.
be just as impactful whichever way you look at it. So I
Mm.
think thank you for sharing it. And again, also, yeah, thank you for just again, if people do want to do things a little bit deeper, then we'd always say go to someone who can support you the right way with, like we say, experts. But sharing things that you know is sharing experience, sharing life that someone else may not have known. So thank you for
Mm.
sharing that. It's amazing. So what I want to do now, so we've kind of covered quite a lot today. It's lovely. It's always goes so quick when I'm talking to you, Chris. We just talk about everything, the past,
Times
the present,
flew
the
by, yeah.
future. It's fantastic. But I want to give people the opportunity to hear from yourself, where they can find you. Of course, we'll put all the links in the show notes description, however they need to see it. Give people your links so they can come and find more out about your.
Mhm. Yeah. So if you want to find out about what I do, then my website is Vitalis, Vitalis energy.uk. So that's the website. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not on any other social channels because I've kept it really, really simple. Now, I've got quite a big following on LinkedIn, so I think that's the right place to be. So yeah, it's those two areas. My email is chris@vitalisenergy.uk. So you just put Chris in front of the website, and you can get hold of me. And happy to help, happy to support whatever it might be, anything cost, energy, utility related.
Awesome stuff. Literally, it's been fantastic to do this again. And I want to say a massive thank you. One, because you
I
have
loved it.
always been, even in the background as a listener, you've been going, giving me feedback over the years. I think we have such a good friendship now, which I really enjoy. And I think we do, like all friends, we don't talk every day, but when we want to have a little catch up, we do. And you've just been an amazing support for me. And when I said, can you come back and have a chat? You were like, of course I can, mate. One of the first people I had in mind. So thank you for that. And just thank you for all you're doing to help
Uh,
support people as well.
Thank you. No, thank you. I loved the first time I was here, and thank you for thinking of me the second time. So, yeah, no, it's good to see you again. And yeah, let's not wait another 15 years. Let's keep this going.
Absolutely. And we never know. We've been talking a bit as well. We'll give a little sneaky peek. We might be having you on in the future to talk some other things as well, potentially, might we? So we'll
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll leave that as a little teaser for listeners now. If they've liked what they heard from yourself, they
They
know.
might not want to hear me again. My dulcet tones. They might be like, "Get that guy off." Hey?
Good stuff. But always great to see you. So thank you.
Brilliant. Nice to see you, mate. Thanks.
So thanks for listening to today's episode, and a huge thanks to Chris. Please feel free to reach out to him if there's things today that you feel you'd like to discuss further with him. And that's what we've asked with all our guests, that they engage with you guys as the community. We will be back next week, and we'll be sitting back down with Kip, and we'll be discussing some other little bits and pieces where we'll be talking about things that support the positive change of the Inside the Orange this year. As ever, though, before we leave, please check out how you can get in touch with the podcast, how you can share, subscribe, and follow so you never miss an episode. Until then, guys, thanks so much for listening. If there's things you do want to find out further, there may be in the show notes and description. So please have a little look in there for any of the apps or things discussed today. But until then, we will speak to you next Friday. So goodbye and take care. At the Inside the Orange podcast, we're about creating positive change through organisation, reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude, and engagement. And you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram at Inside the Orange, on X at Orange Watts, and the Inside the Orange podcast on Facebook. We want you to reach out and help build the community.